Ladies and gentlemen, I want to ask you a simple question. Have you ever found yourself stuck in a cycle of procrastination? That feeling where you know exactly what you need to do, but something inside you holds you back? The tasks pile up, your dreams seem further away, and all the while you tell yourself, I'll do it later. But what if I told you that there's a simple, powerful tool, something you can use in less than 5 seconds, that could change all of that? A tool that breaks you free from the grip of laziness and helps you take action. What if that tool has been within your reach the whole time, waiting for you to finally take advantage of it? Today, I'm going to show you how to use this 5-second trick to stop being lazy. Not tomorrow, not next week, not tomorrow. Right now, it begins with the first 5 seconds. You've heard the advice before, don't overthink it. It's one of those simple phrases we throw around casually, but there's a profound truth behind it. In those first few seconds after you make a decision, your mind is still free of the weight of doubt and second guessing. It's still clear, still sharp, still full of potential. In that fleeting moment, you have a choice. You can act or hesitate. And if you hesitate, that's where the problem begins. You see, in those first few seconds, your mind is open. It's your window of opportunity. The trick is to seize that moment before your mind starts to build excuses. Think about it. How many times have you found yourself standing at the edge of taking action, but instead you chose to wait How many times have you said, I'll do it in 5 minutes, and then 5 minutes turn into an hour, then hours into days, and before you know it, you've accomplished nothing. It's not that you didn't want to take action, it's that in those first moments, your mind spoke louder than your intentions. The moment you stopped and started thinking, the excuses flooded in. Your mind said, you're too tired, or this isn't the right time, or you can always do it later. And that's where the danger lies. Because once you begin to overthink, once you pause to consider all the reasons not to act, the excuses multiply. They become real, tangible barriers that convince you that now isn't the time. In those precious first 5 seconds, you have a choice. Either you take action or you let the excuses control you. Once you delay, once you pause, the momentum of procrastination starts to build, and it's harder to stop. Here's the power in that moment. The trick is not to think, but to do. In the first 5 seconds, you must act, no matter how small the action. It might seem insignificant, but it's the key to breaking free from the inertia. Maybe it's standing up from your chair, or opening that email you've been avoiding, or writing the first sentence of that report. It doesn't matter what the task is. What matters is that you disrupt the cycle of indecision and take that first step. It's that simple. The goal isn't to tackle everything at once. It's to start. Let's take a moment and think about how this works in real life. How often do we hit snooze on our alarms in the morning? How many of us have experienced that moment where the alarm goes off, and in that brief instant, we face a choice: stay in bed or get up? It feels like a tiny decision, but in that split second, your brain already starts to make its case. You're tired, it says. You deserve more sleep, it tells you. So you hit snooze. And before you know it, you've lost another 20 minutes, half an hour, or sometimes even more. And what happens after that? So you're rushing through your morning, scrambling to get everything done. And suddenly, the day feels out of control. But if instead you act immediately, if you resist that pull to stay in bed and simply get up, you're doing more than just waking up. You're creating momentum. You're building the foundation for a productive day. You're taking control. That first step, however small, is the action that breaks the cycle of hesitation. And once you've taken it, it becomes easier to keep going. Momentum is a powerful force, and the best part is that you're in control of it. Think about how this plays out in the larger picture of your life. Whether you're trying to lose weight, build a career, or finish a project, the same principle applies. The hardest part is starting. Once you take that first step, everything becomes easier. The task that once seemed overwhelming becomes something you can manage. It's like breaking a rock into smaller, more manageable pieces. Each small step you take makes the whole thing feel less daunting. The beauty of this trick is that it works in every aspect of life. The secret isn't in waiting for the perfect moment, the ideal motivation, or the right set of circumstances. The secret is in acting quickly, before the excuses have time to take root. Every time you do this, you're not just fighting procrastination, you're reinforcing a habit of action. Each time you choose to act in those first 5 seconds, you strengthen your ability to make decisions and move forward in life. In those first 5 seconds, your mind is clear and your body is ready. You just need to take that leap. So next time you find yourself hesitating, when you feel the pull of procrastination, remember that the key is to act immediately. Just take that first step. It's small, it's simple, and it's powerful. It's the difference between letting the moment slip away and taking control of your destiny. The first 5 seconds are yours. What you do with them will define your day and ultimately your future. Inside all of us, there are two voices. One is loud, persistent, and demanding. It speaks to us in moments of ease, pulling us towards immediate comfort. This voice says, stay in bed for just a few more minutes. It whispers, you deserve a break, relax. It's the voice that tells you to sit on the couch, grab your phone, and mindlessly scroll through social media. Watch another episode of your favorite show, or indulge in anything that requires the least amount of effort. It's a voice we all know too well because it speaks to our basic need for immediate gratification. It's the voice that convinces us to put off the hard work in favor of instant pleasure. And in our busy lives, it's all too easy to listen to that voice. It promises comfort, relaxation, and escape without any of the discomfort or effort required for long-term success. Then there's the second voice. This voice is quieter, less urgent. It speaks to the part of us that dreams bigger, that has long-term ambitions. It's the voice that reminds us of our goals, of the person we want to become. This voice might remind us that we're capable of more than what we're currently doing. It's the one that says, you need to get up and move, not just for today, but for your future self. It's the voice that calls us to work hard, to push past temporary discomfort, and to invest in the things that truly matter. But the problem is that this voice is often drowned out by the louder, more immediate one. It gets quieter and easier to ignore as we choose the path of least resistance, the path of immediate gratification. We face this battle every day, every hour, and sometimes every minute. It's a battle between the easy, comfortable present and the challenging, sometimes painful, but ultimately rewarding future. It's the difference between scrolling through Instagram for hours and focusing on something that will actually move us closer to our dreams. It's the choice to procrastinate on a project because it feels overwhelming versus taking the first step toward completing it. The truth is, the immediate gratification voice is always louder. It's more persistent because it speaks directly to our emotions, offering comfort and ease in a world that's often chaotic and demanding. But here's the thing, while that voice may be louder, it isn't always right. The real power lies in the quieter voice, the one that aligns with our long-term goal. And this is where the 5-second trick comes in. The key to overcoming that voice of instant comfort isn't about fighting it directly. It's about interrupting the cycle before it gains strength. The 5-second trick works by helping you act before the immediate gratification voice can take over. It doesn't require motivation, willpower, or the perfect mood. It just requires you to make a decision in the first 5 seconds before you can talk yourself out of it. Think about the last time you didn't want to exercise. Maybe you knew you should, but the voice in your head was powerful, right? It said, just stay in bed. You'll be fine without today's workout. And in that moment, it probably felt like a great idea. The decision to stay in bed was easy, it was comfortable, and it didn't require effort. But then, when the day went on, you likely felt worse. The guilt, the frustration, the feeling that you let yourself down, that voice wasn't as comforting anymore. But what if instead of listening to that voice, you took action in the first 5 seconds? What if in those moments of hesitation, you made a conscious decision to act? What if you immediately got out of bed, put on your gym clothes, and took that first step toward exercising? You didn't need to be excited about the workout. You didn't need to feel motivated. You just needed to take that first small step to break the cycle of inaction. That's when the momentum starts. That's when things begin to shift. Once you take that first step, something remarkable happens. The discomfort of getting out of bed and the resistance to exercise start to fade away. You start moving, your body begins to respond. The urge to procrastinate begins to diminish. It's the power of momentum. The fact that once you've taken that first step, it becomes easier to keep going. The voice of immediate gratification becomes less powerful when you act, and the quieter voice of your long-term goals begins to rise. It's no longer a battle between the two voices because action has already made the decision for you. This principle applies to everything we do, not just exercise. It's the same when you sit down to work on a difficult project, when you're trying to change your habits, when you're faced with a tough decision about your future. The longer you wait, the more that voice of immediate gratification takes over, convincing you that it's better to wait, that it's okay to put things off. But if you take action immediately, if you make the decision to act in the first 5 seconds, you start the process of change. You don't need motivation to start. You just need to start. That small step is the catalyst that propels you forward. The battle between immediate desires and long-term goals is one we all face, and it's often won in the first few seconds of hesitation. The beauty of the 5-second trick is that it helps you win that battle, not by resisting the voice of comfort, but by interrupting it before it can take control. So, the next time you face this battle, remember that you don't have to listen to the louder, more comfortable voice. You don't need to be motivated or inspired to take action. You just need to take that first step. The momentum will do the rest. Our brains are incredibly powerful, but they are also wired to avoid discomfort. Think about it for a moment. When faced with a task, especially one that seems difficult or unpleasant, your brain immediately begins to evaluate it. Is it going to bring pleasure or pain? If the task feels like work, if it seems hard, if it triggers discomfort or fear, your brain will instinctively signal you to avoid it. This is not because your brain doesn't want you to succeed, but because it's programmed to protect you from perceived threat. It's the same reason why we feel the pull to stay on the couch, binge watch another episode, or procrastinate when we know there's something important to do. Our brains are designed to seek pleasure and avoid pain. But here's the thing, to achieve something great, to truly make progress, we have to face discomfort. Growth, success, and change all require us to step outside of our comfort zones and do things that might feel difficult in the moment. And no. The problem is that when we let our brains dictate our actions, we often get stuck in a cycle of procrastination. We end up avoiding tasks because they feel painful, and we convince ourselves that we'll get to them later when we feel more ready or motivated. But the truth is, you see, when you make the decision to act, when you count down a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you are essentially interrupting the process of procrastination before it has a chance to take hold. Instead of allowing your brain to continue evaluating the task, analyzing it, and deciding whether or not it's pleasurable or painful, you force your brain to make a decision in those 5 seconds. You override the natural impulse to avoid discomfort and take action. Why does this work? The secret lies in a part of your brain called the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex is the part of your brain responsible for decision-making, impulse control, and self-regulation. It's the area of the brain that allows you to plan, think strategically, and make decisions that align with your long-term goals, rather than giving in to short-term desires. But here's the kicker. This part of the brain isn't always the default when we make decisions. Often, when faced with a task we'd rather avoid, our emotional brain, the part that seeks comfort and avoids pain, takes over. This is why in moments of hesitation, we feel a pull toward the easier, more comfortable option. We give in to that immediate gratification, even though we know it's not helping us achieve our larger goals. When you count down from 5, you are engaging your prefrontal cortex. You're essentially hijacking the automatic emotional response of avoidance and shifting your focus to the part of your brain that can make rational decisions. The countdown disrupts the habitual cycle of procrastination and gives you the mental clarity to take that first step. The beauty of this is that it works fast. It's like hitting the reset button on your brain's automatic responses. Instead of being paralyzed by the fear of discomfort or the temptation to put things off, you create a moment of action. You make a choice to move forward, even when your brain is screaming at you to stay where you are. This isn't just theory, it's backed by science. A study conducted at the University of Melbourne showed the power of a countdown in overcoming procrastination. In the study, participants were asked to complete a challenging task. Those who used the 5-second countdown technique before acting were more likely to engage with the task and complete it successfully compared to those who didn't use the countdown. The participants who counted down from 5 were able to push through the initial resistance and take action more quickly. And as a result, they were more successful in completing the task. This research shows that a simple countdown can shift the brain's focus from hesitation to action, from avoiding discomfort to embracing the challenge. What's even more remarkable is that this technique doesn't require any special willpower or motivation. It doesn't matter how you're feeling in the moment. You don't need to wait for the perfect conditions or the perfect mindset. The 5-second trick bypasses the need for motivation altogether. Instead of waiting for the right moment, you take action in the moment. You don't need to feel ready to start, you just need to start. The countdown creates a mental framework that allows you to make decisions quickly before the brain has a chance to convince you to delay, to procrastinate, or to give in to easier, more comfortable options. The power of the 5-second trick is not just about overcoming procrastination. It's about rewiring your habits and retraining your brain to take action. Each time you use this technique, you're teaching your brain that it's okay to move forward in the face of discomfort. You're reinforcing the habit of acting first and thinking later. Over time, this becomes easier. And the more you practice it, the more automatic it becomes. You start to realize that the hardest part of any task is often just getting started. And once you take that first step, the rest follows more naturally. This simple technique, rooted in the science of the brain, empowers you to overcome hesitation and create momentum in your life. It's not just a trick, it's a tool that helps you take control of your actions and your future. So the next time you feel that hesitation creeping in, remember, you have the power to override it. All it takes is 5 seconds. In life, we often find ourselves facing overwhelming tasks, goals so big and so distant that they seem impossible to achieve. The idea of writing a book, starting a business, or changing your entire lifestyle can feel paralyzing. The weight of these tasks feels so heavy that it becomes easier to avoid them altogether. We get stuck in the loop of procrastination because we're thinking about the entire mountain we need to climb, and it seems too high to even begin. We look at the challenge ahead and think, where do I even start? But here's the truth. Change doesn't happen all at once. It happens through small, deliberate actions. The key is to stop thinking about the grand, overwhelming picture and start focusing on the tiny, manageable steps. That's where the power of the 5-second trick lies. The beauty of the 5-second trick is that it doesn't require massive motivation, energy, or willpower. It doesn't ask you to take on the world in a single leap. Instead, it invites you to take one small action, just one step forward. When you use the 5-second trick, you aren't required to get yourself psyched up or ready for the whole task. All you need to do is take that first step, the smallest step you can imagine. It might feel insignificant in the moment, but that is the magic, because by taking that step, you're setting yourself in motion. You're building momentum. Momentum is the secret ingredient to overcoming procrastination and achieving your goals. When you break down a large task into small, manageable chunks, you make it easier to get started. And once you start, the next step is even easier. Every time you take action, no matter how small, you reinforce the belief that you can do it. You prove to yourself that you are capable of moving forward. The beauty of this approach is that it's not about being perfect or completing everything all at once. It's about showing up consistently, making progress bit by bit. Those small steps, those small wins build up over time, and suddenly you've created something bigger than you ever imagined. Let me give you a real-life example. Think about writing a book. The thought of writing 300 pages can feel absolutely overwhelming. You might sit down and look at the blank page thinking, how am I ever going to write all of this? This is going to take forever. But what if, instead of focusing on the entire book, you focused on just one sentence a day? At first, one sentence doesn't seem like much. It feels insignificant. But after a month of writing just one sentence a day, you'll have 30 sentences. That's 30 more sentences than you had when you started on air. After a year, you could have an entire manuscript. The magic here isn't in the sheer volume of work you're doing each day. It's in the fact that you are doing something consistently, even if it's small. What happens next is that these small wins start to compound. They don't just build momentum, they build belief. The first few days of writing one sentence might feel like a drop in the ocean. But as you look back, after a few weeks or months, you realize that those small actions have added up. And with each small win, you're moving closer to the bigger goal without even realizing it. This is how big things get done, one small action at a time. You don't need to be motivated to take on the entire task. You don't need to feel overwhelmed by the weight of what's ahead. You just need to focus on the small steps and take the first one. The 5-second trick interrupts that initial hesitation, that moment when your brain starts to come up with excuses. Instead of overthinking the task, you take action in that moment, no matter how tiny the action is. And in doing so, you set yourself on a path toward achieving something meaningful. Think about other areas of your life. Perhaps you want to improve your health or get in better shape. The idea of losing weight or getting fit can seem like an insurmountable challenge. But what if, instead of thinking about the massive goal of losing 50 pounds or running a marathon, you focused on something smaller? What if you decided to go for a walk every day for 5 minutes? That might not seem like much, but after a week, you'll have walked for 35 minutes in total. After a month, that adds up to 140 minutes of movement. And soon, you'll find that your energy increases, your confidence grows, and you're ready to take on the next step. It's these small wins, these tiny, manageable actions that create the momentum you need to make big changes in your life. The trick isn't to tackle everything at once. It's to show up consistently, even in small ways. Every time you take that small step, you reinforce the belief that you can do it. Every time you take action, you get a little closer to your goal. And before you know it, you'll have made real lasting change. The power of the 5-second trick isn't in the grand gestures. It's in the small, quiet actions that, over time, lead to big results. It's not about waiting for the perfect moment or feeling motivated to do everything at once. It's about taking that first step, no matter how small, and building from there. The journey is made up of these moments, these small wins, and when you look back, you'll realize how far you've come. The big change you're looking for, it starts with that first small action. We all know what it feels like to procrastinate. The nagging voice in our heads telling us that we'll get to it later, that we can just take a break now and start fresh later. And yet, later never seems to come. The problem isn't that we lack the motivation or the desire to succeed. The problem is that we let those small moments of hesitation control us. We give in to the fear of discomfort or the allure of immediate gratification. And before we know it, hours, days, or even weeks have passed by, and we're no closer to our goals. But here's the truth. Those small moments of hesitation are the key to our success. In those first 5 seconds, we have the power to take control. It might seem like a small thing, but those 5 seconds are where everything begins. The first step toward overcoming procrastination doesn't require massive energy, willpower, or inspiration. It requires a decision. In those 5 seconds, you decide whether you're going to let your brain talk you out of it or whether you're going to take action, despite the doubts and fears. Think about the moments when you've been successful. The truth is, the greatest success stories aren't built on some grand, defining moment of motivation. They are built on the small, seemingly insignificant decisions that were made in the heat of the moment. It's the decision to take one small step forward, even when everything inside you is telling you to wait. It's the choice to act now, instead of putting it off for later. And what happens when you take that small action? You create momentum. You set a chain of events into motion that you don't even realize at the time. Take a moment to reflect on a time when you accomplished something meaningful. Was it easy? Of course not. You took action even when it felt hard. You acted in the first 5 seconds, and that's where everything changed. Now, consider your current challenges, the things that are weighing on you or holding you back. What would happen if, instead of waiting for the right moment, you chose to act in those first 5 seconds? What if you stopped letting procrastination dictate your life and instead took control? You'd be amazed at the impact that small shift can have. When you decide to take action, even in the smallest way, you begin to build a momentum that carries you through. Momentum is like a snowball. Once it starts rolling, it picks up speed and it gets harder to stop. When you make the choice to act, you don't just complete the task at hand. You prove to yourself that you can overcome the resistance. You show yourself that you are capable of making progress, no matter how small it may seem at first. And over time, those small wins accumulate. Those small decisions add up to real change. What seemed impossible becomes possible. The mountain doesn't seem so high anymore because you've been taking small steps all along. Think about the power that lies in just one simple action. It could be as small as sending that email you've been putting off or picking up the phone to make a call you've been avoiding. It doesn't need to be a huge leap. It's about taking that first step, even if it's just the tiniest of movements. That's where the magic happens. Once you take action, even in the smallest form, you open the door to progress. And once that door is open, momentum will do the rest. We've all seen it happen in the lives of those around us. The people who seem to achieve success effortlessly, who tackle challenges head on and seem unstoppable. They aren't working from a place of limitless energy or willpower. What sets them apart is that they've mastered the art of taking action in those first 5 seconds. They don't wait for motivation to strike. They create their own motivation by choosing to act, even when it's uncomfortable. They understand that success isn't the result of waiting for the right moment. It's the result of consistently taking small, deliberate actions that move them forward. This is the power that lies in those 5 seconds. In those moments, you have the ability to choose your future. You have the ability to take control of your actions and your destiny. And the best part? You don't have to do it all at once. You just need to take that first step, one small decision at a time. So the next time you feel yourself drifting into procrastination, remember this: you don't need to wait for the right moment. You don't need to wait for a burst of motivation. You already have the power. In those first 5 seconds, you get to decide whether you will act or hesitate. Don't let the excuses win. Take action. Start now. The rest will follow. The first step is always the hardest, but it's also the most important. The power is yours, and it's yours in the first 5 seconds.